What if you could look at the box score and see how many times Patrick Beverley yelled gibberish on the bench? How many times LeBron gave this look to a ref? Or even how many times Tim Duncan laughed on the bench? Okay, maybe not that one. Right now, no NBA team is tracking these obscure stats. But there is a small high school team in Minnesota that is keeping an eye on actions that might seem useless to the casual eye, but led them to 3 conference titles. It's not only this head-scratching tactic that's led Pine City High to victory. If you're watching them play, don't expect to have a favorite point guard or a center on their roster. They've gone full Rockets mode in Minnesota, ditching traditional player positions and shooting threes like they have 5 Splash Brothers on the court. In 2020, an average NBA game that doesn't include the Rockets might see both teams combine to shoot around 60 total threes. But Pine City High is shooting 60 threes a night, all on their own. And just like the Rockets, they have shaped their entire style of play around analytics. They don't have the luxury of a James Harden, or being able to trade for three-point shooters. And yet, Pine City has ridden analytics to go from being at the bottom of their conference to the best. This is a ClutchPoints original documentary on the high school team that never takes a bad shot. For most high school basketball teams, an 8th grader shouting gibberish from the bench might seem strange. But in Pine City, it's not just normal, but they keep stats on it and reward those who shout the most. Pine City Dragons coach Kyle Allen believes in numbers, that there should be a visible value to everything they do. And so Pine City keeps stats on everything. There are hundreds of categories they track stats for, including shouts from the bench, even if it's gibberish. Allen wants the energy, the noise, and the enthusiasm from all of his players. One year, an 8th grader did lead the team in talking stats that they tracked. He led the team in talking for the next 4 years, going from shouting gibberish to eventually being a team leader. Like every coach, Allen believes in the power of communicating with and supporting your teammates. He just takes it to the next level. I had to find a way to say, it's not just me saying this. It's not just another coach saying talking is important. So we started keeping track at practices. And then, all of a sudden, the days we were talking, we were having better practices. All of a sudden, our shooting numbers went up. All of a sudden, our rebounding numbers went up. Then, we started chanting it in games. Same thing, funny. The more talk, the more positive stats we had. So now we were giving reason behind it. And then we started to give rewards for it. So we started rewarding kids who were talking more. In 2011, when Coach Allen first started, he stumbled to a miserable 5-22 record. In his second year, he lost 20 games again. Then, Allen decided to change up his philosophy. He was friends with Jack Taylor, who you may have heard of. Taylor holds the NCAA record for most points in a game, scoring 138 points in 2012. Coach Allen visited Taylor at Grinnell College and was inspired by their analytics-based style of play. So Allen delved into the numbers as well, and they came down to the 3 best shots in basketball: the 3, the layup, and the free throw. You get the most bang for your buck for your shot in terms of shooting percentage, in terms of shot value, points per possession, so on and so forth. So we just said, why are we wasting possession doing something that doesn't yield the highest results? And so that's kind of where the conversation started in terms of our offensive philosophy and shot selection. And then we just decided to push it to the extreme. And to the extreme they went. Allen invested a large portion of his budget on software that tracked every shot. It told him hot and cold zones for certain players, and it kept track of things only college or NBA teams have access to. And so, with the information he gathered and the personnel they had, Allen introduced his new philosophy. Every shot they took from now on was going to be a layup or a three-pointer. Every shot. Allen believed if they played the numbers, they should have an advantage over their opponent. And they did. In Allen's 4th year, it started to click. The Dragons went 20-8. 2 years later, their offense took off and never looked back. They rolled to a 22-7 record. From 2016 to 2020, the Dragons went a combined 95-20, winning 3 conference titles along the way. True to form, Pine City also claimed the top spots at the time in the all-time state history books for threes made in the season and threes made in the game. But their winning ways went beyond just the analytics on the court. Their unique off-court approach is what helped their players buy into the system. Allen wanted to create a fun, loose atmosphere for his players. For many, high school ball would be as far as they got in the world of competitive basketball. A small town in Minnesota wasn't exactly sending 5-star recruits to Kentucky or Duke. To loosen the atmosphere, he created different positions and roles for his players. Pine City tossed aside the traditional positions. Instead, they had their own: creator, shooter, tandem, and big. The creator's job is to kickstart the offense. The shooter launches threes. The tandem player is mostly defensive. Their goal is to guard the other team's best player. And bigs aren't necessarily the skyscrapers down low, but they must finish at the rim, rebound, and set good screens. Not only do they have their own positions, they also have their own roles that dictate a player's attitude and mindset. Every player is given one of these 5 roles: dude, energizer, leader, glue guy, or winner. Each role comes with clear expectations of what your mindset and attitude should be on and off the court. It's a fine line, Allen says, between a role that a player naturally fits into and what the team needs. Kids as early as 7th grade are already thinking about what Pine City position they want to fit into and what role they could take on one day. Combine that with their video game-like style of play, and it's a fun system for kids to be a part of. When a player buys in, it creates an atmosphere where players put aside their ego, know their roles, and can just have fun. Allen describes that atmosphere as chaotic in a good way. Practices include blaring music and constant shouting echoing in the gym. And the way they play mirrors that chaos, with speed and frenetic energy. Pine City doubles at every opportunity and full court presses all the time. And if they execute their fast-paced offense correctly, there's an open 3 or layup somewhere in every possession. All this mayhem has Pine City at the top of their conference 3 straight years, going a combined 41-1 in conference play over those 3 seasons. As they move forward, Pine City will continue to run their analytics-based freelance style of offense. They'll continue to bring that positive chaos, and they'll continue to go to the numbers. Allen says he wants to add even more categories to keep stats on in the future. He wants to add touches and keep track of how many high fives a player gives or how many times a player points and acknowledges a teammate on the court. He wants to keep track of how many of his players crash the boards. He wants to keep track of the hockey assist, of who made a pass that led to the assist, or even who made a great pass that led to a shot that didn't go in. These are things the computer won't track for him, and some of these are things NBA teams don't even track. The NBA is embracing analytics more and more, and the Rockets and the three-point revolution are proof of that. But when Coach Allen first tried out this philosophy, he was met with intense criticism. People he didn't even know were writing in to tell him he had ruined the game of basketball. But years later, it's clear Allen hasn't ruined anything. In fact, with his winning ways on the court and his unique approach off it, he's helping transform the game as we know it.